Did you know that you have over 60 different credit scores for just you as one individual? Let's talk about it. Yep, so 60 scores, a bit excessive, yes. For simplicity's sake, we're not going to cover all 60 today, but we are going to compare two common ones. That's your FICO score, your VantageScore. Okay, so starting off, the similarities of the FICO score and the VantageScore. They both use the same range. They are from 300 to 850. This wasn't always the case. When VantageScore was previously created, it went from 501 to 990, but that's since been changed. And two, the data sources are the same as well. They use all three credit bureaus. So you got TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and they're really used for anything that you can apply for: insurance, lending, renting, even your utilities. So credit in general. Pretty important no matter what score you're looking at. And then they are all regulated by the ECOA, or the Equal Credit Opportunities Act, which you don't really need to know a lot about. Something I use often in my credit disputes to try and get things taken off people's credit reports. One of many, many laws that is helpful. And then there are multiple versions for each score as well. It's not just one FICO score. There's FICO 2, FICO 4, and so on. Okay, so those are the main similarities. Now let's talk differences. I've got five main ones. Firstly, FICO is short for Fair Isaac Corporation. This was made by a company called Fair Isaac Corporation in 1989. So that's the FICO. And then flip side on the VantageScore, this was made by TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian to have a more holistic model. So that they know your risk. Then next we've got percentages. So previously explained, your FICO score is what most people are used to breaking down. There's 5 categories on that one. You've got your payment history at 35%, your amounts owed at 30%, your length of credit history at 15%, your new credit at 10%, and then your credit mix at 10%. That is the standard. Whereas the VantageScore on the other side has 6 factors. And the split up percentage wise is kind of weird. So your payment history compared to the FICO at 35 now bumps up to 40%. So that is even bigger impact for your VantageScore. And then the age and type of account that you have on your credit is 21%. So that's also relatively important compared to the FICO, where it's not as much of a big deal. And then your utilization is 20% of that score as well. So keeping that under 10% to stay in the green, and under 30% to stay in the ideal range. And then your balances. This can have several aspects, but we'll just keep it at that. It's kind of bleeding into the utilization factor of 3 into that 4th factor of balance. And we've got recent behavior. This is 5%. This is calculating your banking account, if you're carrying a balance, if you typically tend to pay things off right away once you use it with your line of credit, or if you carry a balance for a while. Things like that can really come back to bite you. And then lastly, point 6 is kind of building off of the utilization and balance factor for 3 and 4. This is your available credit. So your utilization factor is usually seen as a flip. So if you're using 30%, you have 70% remaining in that available credit category. And both scores are good for different things. Don't get me wrong that I'm leaning towards the FICO, even though it's been around longer, most people use it, stuff like that. The VantageScore does have its benefit. The FICO score typically does require 6 months history minimum for the actual credit history reporting aspect. So you have to have a line of credit or a loan or something for 6 months for that to really reflect on your credit. Whereas the VantageScore, it's only a month. So even if you just got a card or a loan for a month, that will be showing on the credit, which could be good or bad depending on how you're maintaining that account. And then factor number 4, a lot of people don't even know exists, and that's called inquiry grouping. So your FICO score, it groups similar loans and credit inquiries. So if you're working with a broker looking for a equipment loan, they have to go take this to 6 different banks. They're going to group those all together as a single inquiry, despite there being 6 individual ones, because it was all for the same thing. So that is the FICO score structure currently. So when you go buy a car, work with a broker, anything like that, the impact's not as big as you might think with a lot of hard. They all work together. And then the VantageScore on the other side, they group all inquiries within 14 days. So if you are going to look for several lines of credit, stuff like that, you can do it within a 2-week period. It doesn't matter if one was for a car and another was for a credit card or this and that. They all group together despite the category for that 14 days. So that is another advantage of the VantageScore. And then kind of going back to point one where I said you have 60 individual credit scores. This is over more than just your FICO and Vantage. But for them, FICO, they have 28 different versions of their score. It seems a bit excessive, but they all come from different places, tell you different things. I still think it's excessive. Whereas the VantageScore, they have 5 different versions. And the names of these, we'll cruise through them real quick, the most common ones. So your FICO, you've got your FICO 2, which comes from your Experian information. Your FICO 4, which comes from your TransUnion information. Your FICO 5, which comes from your Equifax information. Your FICO 8, which is really the most common that you're going to see everywhere. And then they just continue. You've got FICO 9, FICO 10, and then even a FICO 10T, which is just a deeper dive into all the analytics that the VantageScore really looks at. So whether you're looking at your FICO T or your Vantage, the newest version, it's a lot of information. Then all the other variations for your FICO score are specific to different things. Auto industry has a lot of different FICO scores for them. And then jumping back over to the VantageScore, the 5 that we have, they kept it simple. We've got 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and then you'd think 5.0, but it's 4.0 plus. And 5.0 plus has only existed since 2004. So this does include your banking data, so they can have a more holistic picture of what your current balance looks like, what your bills coming out of that account look like, if you pay all of your bills right away and your account keeps a low balance, or you have reserves. So that new VantageScore 4 Plus gives them a lot more information than most people realize. And that's basically it. Between your FICO and your Vantage, you've got 33 different scores right there alone between those two. But until then, if you need help with your credit, understanding credit, building credit, any of it, get a hold of me here. Here's my number.